Now, to France, in a courthouse in the southern town of Avignon has been hearing from defendants in a rape case which has gained significant public interest. The victim, 72-year-old Gisèle Pelicot, was allegedly drugged and raped by her husband over a 10-year period. He also allegedly recruited scores of men to do the same. Including Dominique Pelicot, 51 men are on trial in the case that is meant to last 4 months. Gisèle Pelicot waived her right to anonymity, making the case public, triggering demonstrations in support of the victim and against sexual violence across the nation. In a moment, we're going to play a report which does contain some distressing things. So just to give you a warning about that, the journalist Jamie Smith-Maillet has been following the wider impact of the trial and sent us this report from France.
I am a rapist, like the others in this room. They all knew. I'm guilty of what I did. I said to my wife, my children, my grandchildren, I regret what I've done and I ask for forgiveness.
Spoken by a translator, those were the words of Dominique Pelicot when he took to the stand on Tuesday. He then called the 50 other defendants in the trial rapists, preempting their cases, which will be heard one by one over the coming months. The scale and nature of the case has sent shockwaves throughout France, triggering demonstrations last Saturday in support of Gisèle. Reacting to the trial, Marie-Christine Robin, a retired English teacher and member of the Réseau féministe 37, a group of a number of mostly left-leaning organisations supporting the feminist movement, told me how courageous Gisèle Pelicot had been.
For the first time, we heard things that we had never heard. From Gisèle, she really is fighting against the myth about rape that we call in France la culture du viol. Also, I was also very much impressed by Dominique Pelicot, which could be strange to say that, when he said he recognized Je suis un violeur, I am a rapist.
Being here in Tours in the Loire Valley, we are far away from the court case itself in Avignon in the south of France, and it is clearly a sign that the scale of the case has had much wider ramifications. But back in Avignon, the justice system is having to contend with a particularly complex trial. Lucie Thébault, a French judge not involved in the case, told me how dealing with public and media interest made it particularly complex.
Alors, elle prend beaucoup d'ampleur, cette affaire.
The case has a wide level of impact because it is showing to society that anyone from all walks of life can be potentially considered a rapist. The defendants in the trial are all of different ages, and most of them don't have a criminal record. The case is showing that an alleged male rapist can be Mr. Anybody.
De ce crime qui est le viol, peut-être véritablement Monsieur Tout le Monde.
Part of the legal debate surrounds French law and its definition of rape, as Judge Thébault explained.
L'article 222-23 du Code pénal.
The legal definition of rape is defined in Article 222/23 of the French Penal Code. In sum, to prove rape, 2 elements need to be demonstrated. The act which, in this case, is penetration, and the intent to commit the act through violence, constraint, threat or surprise. We can see here that in French law, the principle of consent is not mentioned. In reality, it is something that is discussed in criminal court. For a victim to accuse someone of rape, he or she didn't consent to the act which was committed in the first place. Therefore, there is a fresh debate again, triggered by this case, of whether or not consent should be enshrined in the definition of rape.
Ou pas, d'inclure la notion de consentement dans cette définition juridique du viol.
Emmanuel Macron's government in the spring launched a consultation on the enshrining of the principle of consent into French law. Discussions were halted, but are still ongoing. Elsewhere in political circles, there are many echoes of support for Gisèle's case. Elise PEREIRA NUNES is a left-wing local politician in Tours who has long fought for women's rights and the feminist movement. She summed up the mood.
There is still a pretty strong feeling of anger, feeling of frustration, of injustice, and most of all, a feeling that women's voices struggle to be heard. The topic of women being drugged and sexually assaulted has been many times in the news the past few years. You know, women feel ashamed. Their life is basically destroyed. So those are really hard trials. But even if Gisèle Pelicot declared that her life was ruined and that she was broken, she decided to shift the shame back onto the accused.
There is ongoing support for Gisèle Pelicot across the nation. Rebecca Amsellem, a journalist and founder of Gloria Media, a feminist newsletter, explained to me why so many people were taking to the streets.
The first reason is that people wanted to tell her thank you. They wanted to tell her she's not alone, and there is a massive army of women behind her to support her in this trial. I would say the second message would be that people wanted to be a part of the ending of rape culture. If I want one thing to change thanks to this trial and the courage of Gisèle Pelicot, is that for it to be a trigger among men and among young boys. I hope they will challenge the status quo, challenge their education, challenge toxic masculinity in general, challenge their role in society, and realize that if we want things to change, they are the one who might be able to do it.
That report from Jamie Smith-Maillet speaking to us from France. The time now 10 to 10. And he rose